This is one of those things in retirement. When do we pull from our retirement accounts? There's not a one size fits all, right, Mark? I mean,
not at all.
It really is situational, and it has to be part of a holistic plan because somebody's individual circumstance, they may have pensions that they could rely on, and so they don't need to necessarily draw from their retirement accounts early on, right? Or it could be very much the opposite, where when we're thinking about Social Security, we know that Social Security grows at a guaranteed 8% between full retirement age and age 70, right? So if we know that we can get a guaranteed growth on our Social Security of 8%, how often are our retirement accounts getting a guaranteed 8% growth? As a matter of fact, they may be going the wrong way, right? So maybe in that circumstance, what we do is we pull from our retirement accounts early in retirement, let our Social Security continue to grow, and then take our Social Security later on. And so it really is situational, and it's something that we have to make sure we're having that conversation to consider all those facets of retirement, because there's not a clear-cut answer of when to start pulling.
Yeah, in fact, there is no cookie cutter, as Casey just mentioned. Everyone's situation is so unique to them. One of the things that we run into, we might have a client that does need to start drawing on that retirement account early. But when you really talk with a client one-on-one, and I always ask, Casey's heard me do this at our workshop, where do they usually put more of the mental attachment? Is it on a 401k or is it on their Social Security? Almost over 90% of the time, they will say that they're Social Security. They look at it different. They look at that 401k, they stuff the money in there, and now I don't really want to touch it unless I have to, right? Well, again, with taxes going up, right now, it may make all the sense in the world to wait on Social Security because, as you mentioned, it's going to grow at 8%. Our retirement accounts might not. But what about taxes? See? And so if you can pull money out of that plan now, pay taxes at the lowest rate they're ever going to see, what a huge difference that's going to make with the total amount of money that they're able to keep in their own pocket. So again, tax planning has to be a big part of when and if a client should begin to draw on their 401ks or their 403bs or their TSPs. This is very situational, right? It's very unique to each client.
Right. And ultimately, we have some clients that retire at 60, some that even retire before that, right? And we have some clients that work into their 70s. And so when to start pulling from those retirement accounts is situational for each one of them. And it depends on what other assets they may have. And so again, retirement planning is like dropping a rock in a pond. It has a ripple effect. And if you make one decision and drop that rock, those ripples can hit all the other parts of your retirement. And so you have to understand how they all work together and ultimately have somebody that can help guide you through those bumps and bruises that come up if you're going it alone.
You know, in connection with what Casey just mentioned, one of the issues is what happens if you haven't done much planning in these type of accounts and all of a sudden they hit their required minimum distribution date, right? We call it, all of a sudden they get a tax torpedo that slams into their retirement boat, and it can be devastating because they didn't do any planning, right? So knowing when and how to take money out of these accounts is critical, and taxes are just a big part of what, especially a lot of the big wirehouses, they won't touch those. And we believe at Elevated Financial Management, you've got to address taxes, right? Because that's going to really help to determine when and if and how they take money out of these different retirement accounts.
Absolutely. And, we even see folks that have that have worked so hard to build Roth accounts and built these great tax deferred accounts. And sometimes they start pulling on those accounts before they do on their tax deferred accounts. And that's a big miss, right? That's a big problem because the longer that we can wait to pull out of our tax free accounts, one, the more time it has to grow, and two, the potential more tax benefit we have if we believe tax rates are going up.
Exactly.
And so when do we start pulling from our retirement accounts? That all depends on you, right? It depends on your circumstance and a conversation that you have to make sure you've got the right plan moving forward.
Yeah, it's just for us, it's all about having a plan. We talk about it on every radio show that we do, every television show that we do. You need to know when and how you're going to take this money, especially from these, a lot of times, the biggest asset that any client has is in these retirement accounts.
Right.
So you don't want to mess that up. You need to be working with someone that can create a tax efficient strategy, which ultimately, when you do that, what happens? That client's going to have more money left in their pocket because they've got a strategy, especially when it comes to taxes.
That's right.